Hey fellow backyard boyers, Nick here. Now you may notice that my surroundings have changed a little bit. I'm no longer in Hawaii. I finally moved up to the mainland, so here I am. Now some of you may know, some of you who are my friends have been kind of following what I've been doing, and you may know that I plan to move to Colorado, but I never quite made it there. So I ended up moving to Washington, so I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest. It's nice up here, I like it. There's room for me to do my archery, a little more than the little backyard I had, so expect some more videos now. But today, we're going to be building this bow. I've been receiving lots of requests for a Native American style bow, and recently a good friend of mine requested that I do a build-along for a bow used by the Seminole Indians. So he lives in Florida and he has some reasons for why he wants this bow. So we're going to be building this bow today. It's inspired by the Seminole Indians in Florida. It's got a faux cypress wood finish to it. Really simple D bow. It pulls about 40 to 45 pounds at 28 inches, though it likes to shoot a lot lower than that, maybe around 26 inches, but it'll do 28. It's just a little tough, a little stacking, but it's a good bow. But here it is, so we're going to be building this. So prepare for an instant wardrobe change and a slight time warp, and we'll get started. To build this bow, we're going to be starting with a 3/4 inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe. This is 44 inches long. What I've done is I've marked the center of the pipe 2.5 inches out from the center in either direction, and then 6 inches from both ends. These 6-inch end sections are going to be for the tip tapers. So the first thing we're going to need to do is heat this up and flatten it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Alright, so here's my flattening setup here. I've got my heating trough over here. It's basically two 2x4s with some aluminum foil over it. You could use cardboard or something similar. I've got my pipe in there, and I've got my flattening jig. This is the top portion, and this is the bottom portion. I've got my clamps. So here we go. All I'm going to do is heat this up with my heat gun. And if you're using if you're really gentle with it, you can use a torch for this. But I'm going to heat this up. I'm going to heat half of the pipe to center all the way to the tip. Because when we flatten this in the flattening jig, we're going to be flattening at the center. And you want to set your flattening jig to 3/4 inch spacers. There we go. Okay. Now that this is soft enough, I'm going to take it quickly and bring it over here to your flattening board. Make sure it's straight. Take the center of your flattening jig, place it on top at the center. Then you want to start clamping. So I like to start with the top portion here. Bottom portion. Alright, so now I'm just going to let this sit and let it cool. Once this is cool, I'll show you what that looks like. Here we go. Alright, now that this side is cool, I'm going to take the clamps off. And I've still got to get used to crows. Here it is. We've got a nice taper to it. Just want to sight down the limb, make sure that it's fairly straight. But on a bow like this, it's okay if there's a little bit of curve, adds a little bit of character. There you go. Looks good. So now I'm just going to heat up the other limb, flatten that out, and I'll show you what that looks like. Here's the bow, flattened out. It's got a nice taper to it. So this is what it's looking like right now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up the handle section here, just to get rid of this little crease that came from the flattening jig. Another thing I'm going to do is puff this and make it just a little bit thicker and make the sides of the bow, the profile of the bow, a little thinner. This is mainly just to give your hand a place to hold. This bow is still going to be very much a shoot around the handle style. So, here we go. Alright, so the handle's nice and pliable now, as you can see. So you can see we're just letting it puff out a little bit so that you have a very slight dip in the handle here. So I've got a towel. I'm going to use it just to kind of shape the handle the way I want. You don't want the handle to be round because this handle is going to bend a little bit, and you want to be able to handle that flex. This is not going to be a rigid handle, not going to be a static handle. Another thing I'm doing is adding just a little bit of reflex. The reflex that I'm putting in here is just to sort of even out the curvature of the handle so everything lines up really nicely. Once the bow takes set, this will pretty much disappear, and this will be a simple D-shaped bow. Right, you want to sight down the bow, make sure everything lines up. Your knocks are going to line up through the handle. Right, so here it is. It's got a nice place for the hand. Okay, now the next step is to cut the tip tapers. So I'm going to go ahead, mark those out, and I'll show you how to do that. So here we go. Alright, the next step is to cut the tip tapers. Now these tip tapers are going to be very slight because bows like this were usually fairly flat-ended. This end is going to become about 1.25 inches wide. What we're doing is cutting out a 1/2 inch piece that tapers down to here. So what you want to do is you want to measure 1/4 inch from the center of the end on either side, and then you want to basically make sure that this is centered. You draw 2 lines to make a triangle. I did this with a ruler, so it's really simple to do. The next step is to cut this out. Now you can use a coping saw. I have a scroll saw, so I'm going to be using that. And basically, you just want to cut 2 straight lines. Cut these 2 pieces out. So, here we go. Alright, so here I have my taper, and I'm left with these 2 pieces. Now you want to hold on to these because we're going to actually use these to reinforce the bottom of this taper here, just as a little brace. But here's the tip so far. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do the other side, and then we're going to go and put these together. Alright, so now you want to take the end here, you want to go ahead and clean out your taper. One way to do this is to take your end piece and actually just sort of wipe the inside to get all the burrs out. Then you want to take this and cut 1.25 inches from the end till you get a piece like this. Now with the fatter side on the bottom, you want to actually place this inside of this pipe. inside of this taper area to reinforce this area, and so that when we heat this up, it retains its shape. So you just go ahead, kind of pull these apart, make sure this slides in, try to line it up as best you can, and just push it down until it centers on both sides. There you go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put glue in this. So I'm just going to apply some hot melt glue, and then we're going to glue these two together. So here we go. Alright, so I've got some hot glue. I'm going to heat it up, place it in here, then we're going to heat this up and press these two together. Here we go. You don't need a lot. Just put a little bit on each side. This is not really for structure, this is just to sort of keep the ends together. The string will actually hold everything together. Alright. Now that you've got that, take your heat gun and really gently, you just want to heat up the base area. Really gently. Heat it a little bit. Press the tips together. Heat it a little more. Make sure the tips are held together. Then you want to go ahead, go back, heat up the glue. So that you can press the two sides together and the glue will start doing some work for you. So then you want to go back to the bottom and heat it up. Alright. Make sure the glue is nice and melted. And then just want to go ahead, hold the two sides together. Make sure it lines up with the rest of the bow. Make sure it's nice and straight so the tip lines up like that. And then you just want to hold on to it until it sets. So once this is set, I'll show you what it looks like. So, here we go. Alright, here's the end of the bow. I'm going to be cutting the nocks and the tips. The tips are going to be sort of diamond shaped. So I'm going to be cutting along these lines that I made. The actual string nocks are about 3/4 of an inch away from the end. So here we go. So there it is. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to file these knocks, make them a little smoother, this area where the string goes. I'm going to finish this up, sand it off, and then I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Alright, here's the bow. I've got the knocks finished up on both sides. So here's the shape of the bow. It's a nice flat bow, a little bit of a taper, mainly the same width throughout, with a little bit of taper at the end. There's a thickness taper, and when strung up, this bow is going to look something like that. So there it is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build a string for this. I'm going to show you how to build a very simple string, and then we're going to string this up. Once this is all strung up, then we're going to go ahead and finish it, and we'll shoot it. So here we go.